Good evening. Please make yourselves comfortable. Would request you to switch off your mobile phones or put them on silent mode. We are about to begin in about 2 minutes.
And a warm welcome to all of us here to the Dale Carnegie Global Leadership Awards 2017. I am Purabhi Mitra.
And I'm Meghdut Bose.
And it is our pleasure to be your hosts for the evening. We are extremely delighted to have all of you here, having come from various parts of the country. We are here this evening because learning and development, or talent and development, in some way is important to each one of us. Certainly, many one of us have received or provided or designed or planned or implemented various learning initiatives for a variety of objectives. We all know it takes a lot of hard work with innovation and perseverance to achieve L&D outcomes that really matter. And that is why all of us today have gathered here for this event, because of which it is important that we recognize the best of the best leaders who are in this space. The purpose of this very event is to share best practices, and of course, also to elevate the discourse. We also have a panel discussion tonight, where we are going to actually watch the very thinkers who are our leaders and also share their very thoughts with us. We hope that you will walk out of this very evening with ideas that is going to be applied in your very organizations for results.
And that's the work we do at Dale Carnegie with many of our partners. And thank you so much that some of us have been able to make it here this evening. For over 100 years, Dale Carnegie has helped organizations of all sizes generate revenue, increase productivity, and reduce costs, showing them how to reach new heights by revealing their bright and resourceful workforce and setting their unique talent in action. As HR professionals, you know better than anyone else that only a company can be successful when we have the right people in the right jobs. We at Dale Carnegie have partnered with HR teams in creating and inspiring effective development opportunities for everyone, from new hires to high performers, all the way to the top. It has been our mission to help leaders and teams rise to the occasion time and time again by improving relationships that drive progress. We have helped millions of people make their mark on the world by changing the way they interact with it. Our approach has changed with times, but our goal remains the same, ensuring that no one sees themselves the same way again. With a ringside view of the best L&D practices in companies across 91 countries, Dale Carnegie has been awarding recognition to companies committed to people development since 1985. To speak more about the Dale Carnegie Global Leadership Awards, it is our pleasure to now call upon the chairperson and managing director of Dale Carnegie India, Miss Pallavi Jha. Pallavi has ably led the Dale Carnegie India operations to market leadership, having worked with over 8,500 clients and trained nearly 300,000 individuals. A journey that started 14 years ago, and she has consistently been helping the organization win global awards for quality and growth from Dale Carnegie and Associates. Please put your hands together for Pallavi.
Thank you, and good evening to all of you. Let me take this opportunity to personally extend a very warm welcome. And you know, we really have an eclectic gathering here today. I really appreciate your making this, your presence, making this a very special evening. We live in an age today where the big buzzwords are disruption, big data, artificial intelligence. We are in a world of drones and robots. Many of them are threatening to replace our jobs or definitely change the way we work. And yet there is one thing that continues to be constant, and possibly even more relevant today, really, and that is emotional intelligence. You know, we talk about empathy, we talk about resilience, we talk about human relations, the soft skills, which I personally think are the hard ones because they're the hardest to master. And that is really what has been integral and embedded in the classic books written by Dale Carnegie. And the most timeless of them all is How to Win Friends and Influence People, which even today is in the top 50 business books in the world, 81 years after it was first published. So Dale Carnegie really possibly never knew complex business models. I am not aware whether he, worked with calculus and algorithms. But the world's richest investor, Warren Buffett, says that Dale Carnegie training changed his life. In fact, the Dale Carnegie course certificate is the only certificate which he has framed and put up on his office wall. So the winners of the Dale Carnegie Awards today can feel very proud to possibly take back home into their office boardrooms shining recognition that is coveted by the best from an organization that is built on the principles of this man who was known as the messiah of the self-help industry. And an organization which has today converted those principles into very powerful and potent learning solutions for corporates and individuals worldwide, transforming lives, careers, and business results. So let me tell you a little bit about these awards. Traditionally, this prestigious recognition was always given to organizations that had demonstrated commitment to their people, to developing their talent, who embody the idea that people are vital to the organization's success. The very first Dale Carnegie Award was given in 1985 to the Ford Motor Company. Since then, several top companies have received this award all over the world. For this year's award, we received an incredible response with nominations from all kinds of organizations. We had multinationals, large Indian companies, SMEs, even startups. We were very encouraged with the growing participation every year for these awards. This year, the quality of the applications, like in the past, I have to say, has been outstanding, of a very high order. That made the selection process very competitive, and the jury really had a tough time making its decision. In fact, we had to go through an extra round to confer and come to a final decision. One of our international jury members is here with us, our Global Vice President of Products, Jonathan Vehar. He's come all the way from New York just for this event. So thank you, Jonathan, for your commitment, and your being here means a lot. It was fascinating to see how companies are pushing the envelope on talent development. We are a country replete with business opportunities, but we all know, all of us here, whether we are CEOs or HR professionals, we all know that it's the people side of the business that's going to power our business plans, that's going to drive our growth, and that's going to take us to success. And we saw some really noteworthy submissions showing us how the role of L&D has evolved and how many areas of the business it can really impact. Our HR leaders, we noticed, are leveraging skilling and reskilling and upskilling for a variety of business outcomes. there is the usual suspects like leadership development and succession planning and sales growth or increasing customer centricity. But we saw some amazing applications of learning for talent acquisition. Some people use the same L&D strategies for right-sizing their workforce. And then there were others who were looking at learning more holistically, trying to embed a learning culture for a more continuous organizational transformation of a very high order. So it's amazing to see the depth and the breadth of these cases, and it was really worthy of sharing some of them as best practices. And that is exactly what we will be doing soon. We intend to actually publish in a few months a book on the best practices in L&D around the country. And I have to say, a lot of the best practices in HR, in L&D, coming out of India are really global best practices. So there's really good stuff happening. There was a very long list of applications, and we had the first short list of 10 of them, and they were all outstanding. So I want to take time to mention these companies, and I will start alphabetically. Amway, Ascent Telecom Infrastructure, Axis Bank, Capgemini, Central Bank of India, IL&FS Financial Services, Infosys BPO, Jindal Power, NIIT, and PepsicCo. Of these 10, we normally rank the top 3. But it was a difficult choice, so we actually had pared down that list to 4. The jury had to confer, as I said, to finally choose the best out of the 4. But before we get to that, we have a very interesting panel discussion on a topic that we all need to be thinking more deeply about. We have long spoken in L&D about the learning experience, and we have spoken about experiential learning. And it's time now to possibly look at it more holistically in creating an overall compelling employee experience. So before I make way for the next segment, I just want to again thank all of you for your very enthusiastic participation and for gracing this very important occasion. Thank you.
The idea of experience economy is currently one of the most important trends that we see in marketing. Author Joseph Pine gave us an example of how coffee evolved from a mere commodity to a service today. It evolved from the very traders bartering beans to ground coffee in a grocery store to brewed coffee at a neighborhood cafe. Today, the coffee experience includes free Wi-Fi, cozy settings of urban settings, mood music and ambience. Today, you don't just buy a coffee. You actually pay for the right to enjoy it and all its associated frills and the very coffee shop experience. Today, how customers socialize, their networks and their social media are really avenues of promotion. The intangibles of the experience increase the perceived value. It is now a business of selling aspirations, memories, and dreams. In the war for talent, we are seeing how HR is increasingly learning from marketing ideas. Like customer satisfaction, we began to measure employee satisfaction. Like customer engagement, we also looked at employee engagement. And now, customer experience had led us to see employee experience. Clearly, the experience economy is driving innovation in HR. This evening, we have put together a very experienced panel to give us their viewpoints on this very fascinating topic.
Experience innovation, the defining HR trend of 2017. Well, it's a complex notion. to master from idea to design to execution. However, Dale Carnegie research outlines a holistic strategy that can be adopted by organizations looking to transcend their business challenges through innovation. So how do we create a culture or an ethos where outstanding ideas are born in the mind of each and every employee, irrespective of the level? Let's hear what the distinguished panel has to say about that. And allow me to introduce our first panelist for the evening. With almost 20 years of rich HR experience in Australia, India, and Asia Pacific in a variety of sectors, including not-for-profit to consulting to FMCG, our first panelist has wide capabilities in organization design and change management. As the Vice President Human Resources India for PepsicCo, she has been instrumental in setting the Diversity and Inclusion Charter for PepsicCo India. She is a speaker at I Inspire, National Conference for Women Leaders, CLO Conference, NHRD DMA, and is a guest lecturer at Management Institute on Organization Design at India. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Ms. Suchitra Rajendra.
Our next panelist is a certified executive coach with over 44 years of experience in the industry. He has worked in various HR roles with Unilever, both in Kenya and in India, and was executive director for HR for Motorola Asia Pacific countries. He was director of human resources for Shell Malaysia, as well as managing director for Shell People Services Asia. His last assignment was with IBM India as Executive Director Human Resources. He was also awarded the Pathfinder Award by the National HRD Network for being an outstanding seasoned HR professional. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the CEO, Aquil Busrai Consulting, Dr. Aquil Busrai.
Our third panelist has been in the people and change management space for over 25 years, having led a diverse range of infrastructure and change programs across industry sectors. In the course of his career, he brought about organizational change and focused on integration of people strategy, employee performance, and leadership development. Before his role at PricewaterhouseCoopers, he worked with Tata Group, Unilever, HSBC, EY, Fidelity, and Deutsche Bank. He's also very interested in developing skill development solutions for the less privileged. It is my pleasure to welcome the Chief People Officer at PricewaterhouseCoopers India, Mr. Jagjit Singh.
Our next panelist is a person who is with us right now. He's the Global Vice President Products of Dale Carnegie and Associates, where his team develops new products and manages their life cycles. He has over 20 years of experience helping organizations like Chrysler, Disney, and Johnson & Johnson improve their leadership in culture, in support, and innovation. He has been called an innovation thought leader by Fast Company, an innovation guru by Investors Business Daily, and an innovation geek by Forbes. He managed the innovation portfolio and was top-ranked faculty at the Center for Creative Leadership, and has written extensively about innovation and leadership, including a book titled More Lightning, Less Thunder: How to Energize Innovation Teams. His latest book, titled as Manage Your Boss, sits on the desk of his boss, which makes him really nervous. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you with a big round of applause, Mr. Jonathan Vehar.
Finally, we shall introduce our moderator for the evening, our very own Pallavi Jha. Pallavi has singularly led the India operations into one of the fastest growing territories in Dale Carnegie. Besides, she has been a vocal spokesperson for industry associations and an active member of CII, having held various offices from being the chairperson for CII Maharashtra Council and member of the National Skills Development Committee to currently chairing the Indian Women's Network Western Region, a CII initiative aimed at engaging and empowering women, which she helped set up. She is also a qualified executive coach and is recognized as a leading expert on employee engagement. Please give it up for Ms. Pallavi Jha. Over to you, Pallavi.
Okay. So, I was having conversations with you over the drinks and dinner, and I mentioned to some people that I came to Delhi by flight this morning. And at the airport, I couldn't help thinking about the news about the passenger manhandling that made big headlines 2 days ago. Typically, our national TV and social media went into an instant outrage, which I think is the default reaction they have for anything these days. I did come across a fairly balanced article in the press, and it said something very interesting. I don't know whether you'll agree, it is controversial or not politically correct, but it says that in India, customers have this air of superiority and and a sense of entitlement, and they tend to actually treat their service providers with little dignity. So when a rogue passenger disrupts everything and then has to be carried away by security, he is affronted and he reaches out for the neck of the second staffer. And these are young staffers, right? I mean, we have millennials as majority part of the workforce today. These people, out of self-defense possibly, I don't know, decided to tackle him down and pin him to the ground. And what happened? That was virtually the end, I would say, for everybody. We had the customer and the employee, because the employees were all sacked summarily, going on national TV, going on social media, and saying very terrible things about the organization. And we had the competitors swooping in. The very same airline, Air India, that I traveled, came out with advertisements that actually trolled the organization. It was in such poor taste that they had to pull back those advertisements. So in one fell swoop, years of work of building the reputation of, I think, one of the best airlines in the country, right? And talking of innovation, the airline industry sees a lot of innovation, but I think I would call it an innovation. I'm being cheeky, of course, that these guys dared to be on time. That is something you can't say about any other airline anywhere. But it doesn't happen overnight. There's a lot of hard work, there's a lot of investment, and there's a culture that was created. And you know what? Instantly the CEO has to apologize. And I'm wondering what the HR team is dealing with. What kind of dynamics does this create? What kind of loss of confidence happens in employees when you see somebody getting sacked? So I was waiting for the flight, and I started a conversation with the Air India staffer, and I asked her, what do you think about the incident? And she had her clear sympathies with the employees, right? She said, we in our business meet a lot of difficult passengers, and we have to think on our feet, and if our organizations don't support us, then it's really unfair. And she said, I will never work for Indigo, right? Now that's the end of that employer brand. And we're wondering what, in a digital age like this, with increasing transparency, with a growing influence of millennials who are very demanding at the workforce, there is a huge expectation of their experience at an organization, whether it is, you know, they want everything to be extremely engaging, extremely productive, extremely enjoyable. And therefore, organizations, I think, are compelled to look at how they can integrate all, you know, have an integrated focus in a sense of, you know, combining the HR practices, the management practices, the workplace practices overall to improve the employee experience. And there's a whole marketplace, by the way, of innovative products, technologies. There's an app for everything, you know, which is actually fueling this. And you know, HR is rethinking itself completely. So there was one research study I read which said that and this was a global study, it said 80% of the executives that were interviewed ranked employee experience as important or very important for them. But only 22% said that they could say that their organization is excellent at creating a differentiated employee experience. So there is a gap, and that's why we are here, because it's relevant and it's an unknown space, it's an evolving space, and we are experimenting and we are trying to understand. And therefore, here's a wonderful panel who have lots of views and experience. What I'm going to do is just go around this panel, initially ask them for their point of view, and then we'll take it over, and we will have an interaction with the audience towards the end. So, Suchitra, why don't you go first?
Okay. I don't know whether this mic is working or not. It's on? Okay, great.
Good experience.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a very interesting start to the topic. I think I'll come back to it in the next round because so in Pepsi, you know, and across India, as you all know, we have about 65% of Indians are millennials. And within Pepsi also, actually 62% in India and 65% in Pepsi are millennials. So that was the starting point where we said, okay, there are 65% of our people are millennials, but literally only 1% of them are in decision-making roles. So how do we improve that experience for them, and at the same time build them up as future leaders for the organization? So these were the two thoughts that came as challenges for us to say, okay, here are millennials, low representation in decision making, need to build them, need to give them experiences. And as you all know, millennials are literally experiential seeking force with the Facebooks and the Twitter and the, you know, so they want photographic opportunities, they want opportunities to talk about themselves, hashtag this, hashtag that. So all that is also part of the whole journey of their glory seeking kind of, you know, reward mechanism. So all of that coming together, we said, okay, why not form a board for the millennials of the millennials? And the way we went about it is we said, it's not up to the ExCom to choose them, because then that would defeat the purpose. It is for the millennials to elect the millennials, right, who they want to see as position. And it could be somebody senior, it could be somebody junior, because it depends on the influence of that person to be able to garner the support, the peers to see them as influential. It is not for, you know, upward management. So that millennial needs to be able to have a sort of informal power, so to get elected. So we said, okay, so most of the functions, apart from some of the cluster functions, we gave them one seat at the board, and the others like sales and supply chain and marketing all get one position at the board. So we opened a portal where they could elect, so they could campaign first of all, and my God, what a campaign it was. I don't think any of PepsiCo's campaigns ever came even this close to the kind of campaigning that was done by the millennials, the kind of tools they used, all kinds of apps and very, very innovative animations and videos and everything you could imagine was used during that campaign phase. It was the most energizing phase of the whole, time. And they got, and then we opened the portal We in fact also gave, because we had 2 years of this in a row. So the first year we hadn't done everything, in the sense given a gap, and we saw even to the last minute people were campaigning. So we said, okay, we have learned something from the elections of India, so there has to be a cool-off period. So we actually said no campaigning from Sunday morning to Monday when the poll opened. And so then there was that, and we had to monitor it very carefully because there was informal campaign happening on WhatsApps and all of that. So we had to really, you know, make sure that we could monitor all of that. And then the polling started. And it was so interesting because people could see live polling happening, that, okay, you know, literally like elections, okay, so-and-so trending, exit interviews happening. They had taken over the scene in the organization. It was amazing. And then that evening when I did a webcast and said who's the people who have won, again, it was, we had never had such a houseful webcast. Our leaders speak every month, we have town halls, we have webcasts. You know, at the most we have about 80% attendance. Here we had 100% attendance, and every monitor across the office had people standing there for me to say who it was in every function. And so it got revealed, and I had to do it function by function, and you know, and had to really build up the momentum. And they were like, and there was huge cheering. There were people from across offices calling, buzzing. So you know, that was an amazing event that happened. But what after that? So after that we have a huge program for them. It happened last year, it happened this year. The 1 week induction program as to how to present yourself and all of that. And here are a group of people eager to take on those roles. So their engagement with the process is enormous because they want to be seen as leaders. And we said, I, as ExCom member, am not going to tell you what your agenda is. You have to create your agenda. You have to come back to us saying what are the pillars you want to work on, what is your vision, where do you think you can make an impact. And we told them the last year, for example, they taken 3 pillars. They said, we're going to decide on who are the people who are getting recruited through campus. So we said, fine, you own the campus space completely. So we are not going to interfere with it. You have to decide, you have to recruit, you have to do everything. So they said, yeah. Digital. So they said, we are going to decide on the digital footprint of the organization for the employees. So we said, okay, go ahead and do that. And the third is the internal ambience of the organization. So again, I said, great, go ahead and do that. So they decided, we were moving into a new office so they could make a lot of the decisions, so they decided. So now the next group has come and they've said, we want to own how people are inducted. So they've made, in fact, a virtual, you know, the 3D virtual classes and all of that. So we said, fine, you decide, and you know, the whole onboarding, induction part of it. They want to take obviously the digital footprint further, and they want to take the EVP campus externally further. So it's a great way to become a leader. We present them in any, when Indra Nui comes in, they present to her on their piece of the work. So they have a lot of exposure with leaders. They shadow leaders. They shadow different ExCom members to say how to, you know, work across decision making. So they really are groomed through the year. So last year's people got groomed. In fact, 2 of them got placed globally because when the global leaders came, they said, my God, this is such a bright person. We want them right now in New York. So they were so thrilled. So therefore the campaign this year was so much more, you know, fought out. But the kind of, the year goes by and you see a group of raw individuals coming out at the end of the year as transformed individuals. And the entire company also, the millennials, 65% of my population sees that and says, wow, this organization gives me an experience. It's not a learning, it's not a, you know, 1-day course or something like that. It's a year-long course. In fact, now I'm going to have a strategy meeting, and guess who's invited apart from the ExCom and the DRs? The YCOM is invited to that, to experience that. So that's what one experience that I
That's an amazing initiative, and I can imagine what it did to the experience overall, because I mean, we're talking about getting people in 100% and getting that participation and momentum must have been amazing. Akil, over to you.
So Pallavi, when you mentioned about experience, I was looking at the word definition of what is experience. And I want to quote an example of something like you mentioned, Suchitra. Also, millennial, large number, IBM. The word experience didn't make much sense. Bring your dog to work and have free cookies and have lounges, etc. is all cliche. And I took a approach to what you mentioned in your opening remarks. Could we touch something on emotional front? So, we HR people have this exit interview, and I'm a strong non-believer in exit interview, because no exit interview ever said the real reason for leaving is my boss who's a 4-letter word. So we looked at 850 exit interviews. We understood the reason why they left, and we found out 34.5 or 34.3% of people left for lack of growth prospect. And they said, excuse me, world's largest IT company, 165 countries to choose from, any vertical, any technology, and 34% people telling us they left because of lack of growth prospect. So I took a mirror image of exactly 850 people, same age, same education background, same profile of experience, same field that they're working in. So mirror. And we went and asked them the opposite question: what makes them stay? And 35, a coincidence, 35.6 or 35.7% people said, I stay because of growth prospect. Now this was the experience that we were looking for. What is it that somebody feels alienated in the same company, same competition, same opportunity, same platform, same technology, and somebody feels of staying? So we dive deep into it, and we realize that the managers of the second lot talked to people, interacted not only to find out what they have done, interacted on career, on growth, on training and development, on everything besides work. And that was the experience people were feeling, that I have someone to tell me where I'm going, somebody to clarify where I'm going. So when I look at this idea, of course, we went one step further. We went to find out all the people managers who had lost people. And be very candid, we actually went and counseled quite a few of them, and we even separated some. Because we realized that creating experience, and I like your quote, the job of a leader is to create leaders. And creating leadership, and like you do, Suchitra, is to create experience around. Now this was not to do on a hype on Friday evening, wine testing. Those experiences are fun. Having a Zumba dance, etc. is all good part of experience, but short-lived. Short-lived. We wanted to have something which touches deeper. And when we hit upon this, we started working on people managers and engagement of the managers to people. We reduced attrition by 1.3% in 1 year. Now on a base of 52,800 employees, that is something you can feel good about, that it impacted business. But more important, the engagement with employees improved. And they saw that something was happening to focus on experience which they value, not something that we go to get an award in some XYZ function and talk about. Play low, lie low, create an experience where people feel inside here. And that's why, despite all the technology and all the advancement, I love toys and I love gadgets and I love technology. But I'm still old-fashioned only on one thing. The H in HR is not for compromising. And that experience was touching the H part. Good fun. It also made business sense. It made employees happy, made us feel that we were creating an experience for people. Thank you.
Super. So I really like that part which says the H in HR has to stay. I'm a big believer in the people side of everything, so that really is true. Jagjit?
Well, thanks. So I think great insights. So I think from our perspective, we about 84% millennials, 16,000 people in India.
Wow.
Average age keeps reducing by half a year every year. And it's a continuous challenge. And I think what's possibly working for us is, as you rightly said, just the experience that we can give to our colleagues. And so the big shifts we've done in the last 2 years, whether it's the bell curve being abolished, whether it's a sabbatical policy for women that gives them 3-year offs with medical insurance, the whole piece that we do around performance management and the way we build leadership pipelines, all that has actually come back from our Gen Next sounding board. So as you mentioned, we've got 200 of our millennials who constitute our Gen Next sounding board, and they have the privilege to review every policy that I make, that every policy that the ExCom passes. So the beta version gets tested with them. So a lot of the work that we've done on learning and development, on onboarding, on campus, on the way we label people managers who are not able to give the right kind of experience, and what we do with them from a development standpoint. How do we manage high performance and high potentials? So I think all that, and these 200 guys can call out anything. So changes in medical insurance limits, changes to the performance management process. We have a unique winter break that we give. That idea came from them. So we will shut down offices in India from 23rd December to 2nd of January every year. And this idea came from them. And they also gave us a solution saying how we can share. So I think what it's done for us is that it's radically dropped our high performer attrition by about 20-22%. And our engagement scores have gone through the roof. My young leaders are not very happy about it, right? Because we have 84% millennials, and only about 2% of them are in the young leadership program, and the remaining, are in the late 30s, early 40s. So we've had a challenge there. How do we transition that part? But I think what stood out for us is that again, with the millennials, we've not been able to define a single experience that this is it, what will serve everybody. Because the aspirations of the millennials are very, very different. And so career paths are no longer in fashion, right? Because they're looking at a multitude of experiences. Our notion that you must do a role for at least 3-4 years to make an impact does not make sense to them. So we're looking at people who are bridging roles every 9-12 months. We know in India there's this whole race for titles. So if I can't change my spouse every 2 years, I must change my title. Right, now that's the only one way we're having a challenge. That the fascination for title is still there. But what learning curriculum does Mr. X need and does Mr. Y need is very, very different. Learning itself, we've kind of replaced most of our classroom training with learning on the go. So maybe that's one of the reasons why we're not big clients for you. But
and you're still here.
You're still here. So learning itself is defined very, very differently. We had a recent instance where we had one of the Gen Next members who wanted a meeting with the chairman. And so I was told I said, listen, I'm not supposed to be asking them, so you better be ready with everything. So the meeting was set up, the invite was sent, the place of the meeting was the chairman's office. So this young guy declined the meeting. And so my office was quarreling, and so I was traveling. So just ask the guy, what's the issue? There's no point making a big fuss about it. So he was asked, he said, listen, I cannot meet the chairman in the chairman's office because of the power connotations that come with it.
Right.
So we then had to go and we went back to the chairman and said, listen, I don't think this meeting's happening. If you're still keen, it has to happen on neutral territory.
Oh, wow.
So he said, but I can meet him in a conference room. I said, I don't think that's a good idea. So finally it happened in the Cafe Coffee Day in Cyber Hub. And the meeting lasted 2 hours.
Wow.
So I think our own sense, what we're learning is that while there may be a sense of entitlement, but I think everything is up for questioning.
Yeah.
Everything is being redefined. We believe in the future of work that by 2030, this is a lot of research we do internally, globally, not more than 60% of our people will be regular full-time employees. 40-45% is going to be contingent workforce. And what artificial intelligence, robotics will do to this future of work, we can't even comprehend. We believe by 2035, with the advent of machines in all that we do, there will actually be a premium for products which would be man-made. So you'll actually have a label which will say machines have not been we have not been involved in the production of these products. A couple of weeks back, we were in Riyadh attending the Saudi Arabia Crown Prince whole investor conference. While a lot of the other stuff that he talked of, a bunch of young innovators came in and presented how they think that you will not need solar panels in another 5 years from now to convert solar energy into, convert sun ray into solar. And they actually presented a plan how they think that Saudi Arabia has the maximum desert cover. They can actually do it directly from the sand.
Oh.
Wow.
Now this is where innovation is going. 2 weeks back, we were in the Bay Area in a hotel. Artificial intelligence. The guys came and told us that we had been there for the last 7 years. We've been traveling to the same hotel. There was 6 of us, 3 had been regular. They use artificial intelligence to actually tell me that, Mr. Singh, on a Tuesday evening, the last 7 times that you're here, this is what you prefer to eat. Is this what you will now order as well? The world's going crazy. And the crazier thing happened later in the evening when at the hotel I found that the size of the slippers was not right. So I ordered for a size bigger. So I was told that yes, it will be delivered. So the bell rang and I saw open and there's a robot standing there to deliver. And this is 2 weeks back in San Jose. And I was like, dumb for a moment, saying, what am I supposed to do with this now? So a screen opens up, it has the instructions that this is how you pull your slippers, you sign off, give your score for the customer experience, and then you see this robot walking back.
Do you have to give no? Because that's great.
So this is what's going to happen. So I'm just going to stop here because I think a lot of other panelists will speak.
There's plenty to actually, once you get started, this topic really can consume you. It's amazing. But you made one very vital comment saying that the traditional hierarchies in the organization are really just not happening. We're working in networks and really to be able to pull in, work differently. HR has to work differently. But again, from very often we fail to see it from the employee's perspective and what they are seeing and what they are experiencing. So I don't know, Jonathan, I'll just leave it you to kind of make your opening remarks and maybe we can come back and talk about all the things that you've said as well. If you just...
Yeah, so I think the employee experience is interesting. So 28 years ago, when I was a young millennial, it felt like it back then, right? So when I was young in my career working in advertising, I worked, my second job, I worked at an agency that was undergoing steep growth, demanding clients, pressures on profits, lots of work. It was a really challenging place to work, not unlike most of the workplaces today. And I had the managing director of our office, I remember used to come around a lot and check in with us and ask us how we were doing, and his name was Steve. Steve and I would argue about politics, and we would argue about football, the other kind of football. And he would always say, just remember, it's not always going to be like this. It's not always going to be like this. And that was reassuring to me and to all of my colleagues. And every now and then we'd be sitting lunch, tough day, but it's not always going to be like this. And I remember after 9 months of Steve walking around saying, it's not always going to be like this. And I said, Steve, when does it get better? And he said, I never said it was going to get better. I just said it won't always be like this. And it wasn't so much about the message of hope, but it was about how he treated me, how he treated my fellow employees. He really treated us with respect and with a sense of friendship and what Alan Mulally would call love. So Alan Mulally, if you don't know, is the former CEO of Ford Motor Company. Joined the company in 2006 when they were projected to lose $17 billion. That's billion with a B. They're going to lose $17 billion, and as Alan liked to say, that was the projection, and that year we achieved our projections. And so he started with $17 billion loss. He left 6 or 7 years later with a $7.2 billion profit. And Alan has been working with our organization around his business process review methodology. And in his coaching with the executive team and with my boss, the CEO, he always says, remember, you have to love them up. You have to love them up. What does that mean? You have to love your people. You have to treat your people with love, with respect, with friendship, so that they know that they're important, so that they know that they're valuable. And it's interesting. So, love them up is a very American expression, but I think about love. How does that relate to the workplace? That's not a word that I associate with the workplace, but it makes sense. And so if any of you have read about the Google research that they did lately, using all the big data to understand the high-performing teams, what's going on there? What's going on with the high-performing leaders of those teams? And what they found, the number one thing that was most important was that the teams that were doing great things, that were having great results, they had an environment, a culture of psychological safety. Right? The people could say the things that were on their mind. They could voice the new ideas without fear of ridicule. They could say the things that were important and speak their truths in order to advance the cause that the team was working on. And I think about that notion of love them up. Like, that's one of the foundations for creating that psychological safety that allows teams, that allows people to really perform at their best. And I think that that's really what the employee experience is all about. So how do you create that environment where people feel loved, where they feel respected, where they feel trusted, and where there is that psychological safety so that people can create great things? And I think that all of us in the work that we're doing, that's what it is that we're trying to create.
Absolutely. I was just thinking that, we're looking at an employee experience, and we've heard terms like recruitment to retirement, and what does it really mean for organizations? But most of the large organizations really are, have HR silos. You've got a chief engagement officer, and you have a chief, performance officer, and you have somebody for rewards and recognition, and these are very different silos. And do you think that makes for a holistic experience at all? And do HR organizations inside companies need to do things differently? Because each of them have their own teams, they have their own tools, they have their own metrics, and are we talking as an organization, in terms of one integrated experience for the employee?
Absolutely. So I think the only reason why HR could go out of existence or could be history in the next 5-10 years is our inability to really look at the entire spectrum in one go. And I think, to my mind, HR's existence is actually being talked about, is being questioned at many forums we've heard in the last few years, is because we still do our own power plays within our own function. That's one. Second, I think the whole business acumen piece is a big challenge. So I have to be able to talk to my businesses saying, how can HR improve top line, get better market share in a competitive market, or improve bottom line? That's the conversation. And because we are, we tend to be siloized, we don't talk to each other. So the employee experience itself kind of gets broken. I think the good thing is that with technology taking over, a lot of the basic fundamental experiences get sorted out. The whole classic employee life cycle piece. But then I think, as you mentioned, while we may have design thinking and machine learning and all that happening, even the millennials or the centennials will come in will still need the human interface. And that's where the engagement has to move from just the fun piece to a lot on the performance, on the development, on the career part. And it's more difficult for now because as 20 years back, you're talking of career paths. Now there are no career paths. You're talking of a multitude of experiences. When I have a 22-year-old son, he just finished graduation, got picked up by a Fortune 100 company, and he said, I'm not joining. And I said, listen, not very many graduates in India get picked up for this. I said, what happened? He said, I don't think they really respected me in the interviewing process. Period. Now, this is how things are changing. So, to my mind, that's the space where HR will really have to collaborate, break down all these boundaries. And a lot of these boundaries will anyway go away once technology really takes over.
I'll be a little contrary to that. We have seen, specialists come up from a very general, but I consider myself like the doctor of medicine, right? And therefore, I work very closely with the business to diagnose the issues and diagnose and help, saying, okay, if we want to be, let's say, double our turnover, share, etc., then these are the 3 things that prevent us from reaching there, and it could be anything, right? And therefore, then I look back at the experts that are there in my team. So they're the TR expert, and I want them to be experts, because in today's world, I cannot have all generalists sitting and not really giving me the best that they can. So once I have the experts, I can leverage those experts and bring together the solution. The right surgery will need the right kind of people and experts, and get them together into the thing and say, okay, therefore what is the solution that I want from these experts? But it is my role to get the right, first of all, diagnosis, and then come back and say, hey, who in my team can give me that, bring all of them, put it together, and go back to the company and say, this is what we need to do, and this is how we need to work with each other. And sometimes it is not just my experts, it's also the sales guys who have to be in the room, who will help me and say, is this the right thing? And we do a bit of brainstorming or whatever. So getting the right team into the room to get that solution and get that business going. And that's why the respect is there, because if everyone, otherwise HR will be treated as a very fluffy, superficial function. And that is something that we no longer have the luxury to be. We have to be deep partners with the business, and we are, because as you guys already put it, that the only competitive edge in today's world is the talent edge. There is no other competitive edge. Technology is replicated, ideas are replicated, everything is replicated, but the passion that you generate in the organization through the work you do can never be replicated.
I look at it this way, and taking a cue from what Jagjit you mentioned about the HR function is rightly moving and should, if not moving, to obsolescence. It should become obsolete. And I say this because I'm in HR, so I can say this with humility of being a part of the function. I don't mean that HR function should close down. The traditional way of people issues going to HR is like a complaint department. Right. That has to stop. The line managers who deal with people must be taught to deal with people issues. And that creates a completely new genre of HR activities. You make HR obsolete. So some gap is created, that should be filled by the line managers. The HR function then raises the bar, and Suchitra, like you mentioned, the specialist or otherwise. They raise the bar of expertise, not general knowledge. Because I think if we compete with line manager for general knowledge, there is no competition at all. So they have to raise the bar either through expertise like you mentioned, or through enhanced knowledge where they become advisor to line managers how to handle people issues. So the whole role changes, that don't come to HR for people issues. We will come to you for people issues. And this is not just putting nice words together or motherhood statement. In reality, The people running the business must manage the people they deal with, and HR then must become a specialist. And to become advisors, they must essentially know more than people who are managing people. And that's why upping the bar and enhancing their expertise and knowledge will make HR functional, and it will automatically add to bottom line, top line, middle line, bulge, whatever you want to.
For example, the current problem I'm working on, let's say, is to enable PepsicCo to move to a new, more nutritional transformation, right, role. So what do we need to think of? We need to think of the structure, we need to think of business models, we need to think of who are the partners that we want to work with, what's the kind of talent that we need, how do we look at e-commerce? So these are the things. So there's no reason, I mean, this is part of, somebody else would say, hey, this is strategy or this is this, but this is HR.
No, I think there's no doubt that HR has to be a real business partner. I really feel that, and you touched upon it, that it's really the war for talent, right? You're competing out there. And to get the best of the talent, for all the good work that we do in HR, once in a while we go to Glassdoor and we see that dirty review that happened. And that is what the rest of the world is seeing, because 97% of your employees didn't put up a review and they're happy, but that one or two people who were disgruntled went out there and put up their reviews, and then that contributes or takes away from your employer brand. And where is that Glassdoor review really coming from except for the employee experience? And that's why the relevance of in this world of transparency, that employee experience and the stories they tell about their experience. And we've all said that an employee referral is possibly the strongest, and one of the most asked questions in any engagement survey is, will you refer this company to your friends, right? But what is a Glassdoor review?
Yeah, but
right?
Just to go there, and I completely agree that that is not the HR problem, it's the organizational problem. So every manager is responsible for that outcome, and therefore, even in us, when we do an engagement survey, I'm not the custodian of the engagement survey.
Fair enough. So coming back, it is still the employee experience. It doesn't matter whether it emanated from HR or from business.
I have a different perspective. It is not experience alone. I think we hype up this individual level, sometimes we exaggerate to focus. I look at it as a culture and the perception of the culture of the organization. Yeah. And I'll give an example. I spent years with Shell Malaysia, 132 years old company, including millennials, including third generation, including long-timers. The culture of the company made people feel a sense of belonging. So Glassdoor exists for Shell also. And we went through some very tough patch in 2003 with New York Stock Exchange, whatever the interpretation. But yet, the attrition remained static. Attraction of talent remained static. Our Gurami project, which attracted the best of the best talent, didn't suffer at all, only for one reason. The intrinsic faith in the culture and the faith that this is a solid organization, not individual, organization. So I think sometimes we have to build up an image, and an image not from PR angle, but an image that whatever happens, ups and downs will happen, but this organization will tide it over. And that is the job of HR, to create that ambiance and create that communication, not falsely and PR exercise, but to genuinely say, by example, how we make this organization unique in good times, bad times, this will survive.
So the challenge is that because you have so many people across, I think people's expectation is that the experience has to be consistently outstanding. And the guys who are delivering the experience, while HR can influence in the grooming and the culture building piece, along with the business leaders who are delivering the experience. So with all those people managers, how do I deliver a consistent experience is the key. And that's where the HR interface comes into play. Exactly. And the challenge is that, so if I have somebody who's presenting to a client and has a hard tag, does HR come back and look at the policy and say, wow, this is not allowed? Or does the entire organization put its arms together to say how do we care and ensure that policies are put on the side and exceptions are done. So I think it's that piece which then goes on to talk of the pride stories of an organization, becomes part of culture, saying how does leadership really come together in those moments of goodness or badness.
You started by asking the question about the boundaries and what do we do, and I think that the biggest challenge that we have in organizations, and we have it in our organization with 190 offices and many people in different silos and functions, is how do you break down those boundaries? And whether those boundaries are geographical or hierarchical or siloed functions or demographic or which kind of stakeholder you're talking about, all those barriers at some point need to be broken down so that we can start to operate as if we are one. In our organization we talk about one Carnegie. We want to make sure that all of our offices, no matter where they are supporting all of the other offices. And Pallavi, you recently received the One Carnegie Award at our convention. You're a great example of that. Thank you for that. And I think that breaking down that boundary where we get to the point where we can't really tell where HR stops and where the business units begin, that's how we get to that point of really dealing with the issues that are most important, so that people aren't necessarily seeing HR as a cost center, but they're seeing it as, and not just as a partner, but they're seeing it as an integral part of the business, and they're seeing it as an integral part of the operation, so that learning and development isn't something that we have to do to check a box, but it's a really part of how do we grow the organization. I think that is of course the long-term goal, and I think that with big data and artificial intelligence and all of those things that we're doing to really start to track more effectively the impact of our work, that's where we start to get ourselves a really important seat at the table to say we are the business. We are not a function, we are not a silo, but we are the business.
We've just got last few minutes left, so I'm going to, we have time for 2 questions maybe, if anybody wants to. Yeah, right ahead.
Good evening, everybody. The name is Venkamada Baljit Aluwalia. My question is for Suchitra. About 5 years ago, NDTV hosted a function in Mumbai which honored 25 globally distinguished living Indians. And on that stage were people like Amitabh Bachchan, Amartya Sen, Sachin Tendulkar, Mukesh Ambani, and one of the person was your chairperson, Indira Nooyi. While receiving the award, Dr. Prannoy Roy requested all the award winners to say, what are your 3 success mantras over your career span in the life? And what she said was very impressive. They've stuck in my mind for the last 5 years, and I just want to corroborate that with you. So she said, my 3 success mantras are: 1, always be in quest for learning, because that's endless. Just be on the learning path every time. Whatever you are engaged in, give it your 100%. Never have any regrets in saying, I wish I had tried that, never have that. And the thing is, always make room for people below you to come up and grow in the organization. Now my question to you, Suchitra, is, has she really been able to cascade this message down to the people in the organization? Do they feel on the same lines, or is it just a wish list of Indira Nooyi?
No, I think, she's actually been quite true to what she says. And whether it's the learning, constantly innovating and having the learning culture within the organization. So as they're really highly committed to learning, and it's not just classroom learning, it's constantly looking at roles, changes, jobs, innovation, products, you can name it, and we've kind of ventured into that. Engagement, of course, I think all of us here agree that anything in life that you really want, you have to have that 100% engagement, across very, very passionate set of people within Pepsi, and we just cannot be doing anything else apart from what we are committed to. And definitely, she is very, very approachable. She's extremely approachable. Like I said, the YCOM meets her, and as he said, very, very high questioning people. In fact, we're going through a change the game thing where anyone across campuses, including people with 2 years experience, can give an idea on a platform which is open right now, and the winners will actually go and meet her and talk about their idea to her directly. So that's the kind of work that she encourages. So it's been great working with her.
Thank you, Suchitra.
We'll take one last question.
Can they be both from the same table? So my question is I'm Dr. Sachin Gulati from American Express. My question is for you, Jagjit. When you have that beta testing of policies and people commenting, how do you manage the Gen Y or Gen Z when they get to hear a no from you? Because I'm sure not everything is said yes at one go. So how do you manage that transition?
Absolutely. So I think the engagement, first of all, is through the year. And there are a lot of things in the works. So I think they also appreciate it. I think what we found is that without giving excuses, if we can just tell them why we think this is not going to work, and their view is, okay, let's try it amongst us. So what we do is we implement the beta tested policy, the beta policy on a smaller business. There is always a risk that it could fall over. But I think when they know that we're taking that risk, then I think the final line does get drawn. But I think the equally challenging piece is to get the leadership along. That there is always the risk of some leaders not aligning. So I think we have a healthy respect there. That we will be innovative on some of these things and gives us an edge. Like we have an innovation center in Hyderabad, which is on the lines of Hyderabad's T-Hub. And this T-Hub, we actually have an entrepreneurial program where we invite young employees who are interested in startups. Now the time this proposal was put together by a youngster, it only drew a lot of criticism at the leadership level. But I think it's also equally the HR, as the HR lead, my job to ensure that I do persist with some of these things. And today it's actually a leading edge process for us when we go to campuses. A lot of people join us because we have this innovation T-Hub where in Hyderabad there are people working on driverless cars. There is somebody working on sending homemade satellites to space. So I think it's really exciting a lot of youngsters. We lose about 5 to 7 people every year who go out to do startups. And there's one way of looking at it, saying, oh, we're losing staff out. The other way we look at it as a great ambassadors for us. And so we actually have a full-grown program that supports them in the first 3 years as they launch the startup without charging them anything. We had a lot of push saying, why don't you convert that to equity? Right, because that will be beneficial in the longer term for the organization. These are things that are getting debated at this point in time with these youngsters. So it just makes them feel empowered. And I think it gives them a sense of responsibility that I can take those risks. I can have those conversations. The challenge with the rest of the organization is that we got to nurture them to have these conversations. So the Gen X and Y leaders, they find this a bit wacky. So I think our work is to get a lot of external reverse mentors to mentor them and say that this is the way it is. So we actually invite a lot of their kids across to the organization. Now when you connect them with what's happening at home, they get it.
Right. Fascinating. And it's amazing how you talked about how it's helping you to recruit, youngsters at campuses, etc. Because really, we're all dealing with a rising demand for, talented workforce, and within that, I think what we need to do is make sure that our current employees are going out and sharing the stories positively about their employee experience within our organizations. And that includes, the workplace itself, the physical, the emotional, what you talked about, and professional, the growth piece, and financial. We've had lots of conversations with employees who say, I'm highly engaged, and you have a resignation within 3 months because I want to change, right? It just all doesn't add up. So lots of things to do. There's technology who's disrupting everything. Unfortunately, the HR tech market is equally siloed. If you really see, you know, you have the performance management apps and you have the LMS apps and you have all of that, but they're not integrated. So my only hope is that as we break silos or create one integrated experience, I hope technology is going to be an enabler and not something that delays us. Sure.
Like I said, this won't last for long.
Right. So on that note, I think just creating a differentiated employee experience is going to be possibly our only competitive advantage in this war for talent. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks.
So before we have our very esteemed panel leave the stage, we would like Pallavi to commemorate each one of them with the Dale Carnegie Memento as a token of appreciation. Thank you, everyone. That was a very insightful discussion. Some of the things that I could take away from this very panel discussion was building a strong competence, network as much as possible, redefine whatever that is redundant, bring in bite-sized learning, as well as bring stronger organizational development through its culture. So moving on, let us now turn our attention to the agenda of the evening. The time has come to reveal the winners of the highly anticipated Dale Carnegie Global Leadership Awards for 2017. Dale Carnegie was a true believer in the power of leadership. Over 30 years ago, Dale Carnegie and Associates developed the Global Leadership Award with the aim to recognize excellence in leadership among companies with a strong people development culture. As you know, the first award ever was presented to the Ford Motor Company in 1985. In India, Wipro was the first Indian recipient in 2007. Since then, we have gone on to recognize companies such as Piaggio Vehicles, Union Bank of India, and Mahindra & Mahindra for their outstanding people initiatives. This year again, we received countless extraordinary applications, and we cannot wait to announce the winners already.
Every year, the winner of the Global Leadership Award is selected after a careful evaluation by a global jury. This year, the jury members were Michelle Bonterre, the Chief Brand Strategy Officer, Dale Carnegie & Associates, New York; Jonathan Vehar, who was part of this distinguished panel; Mark Marone, Director Research and Thought Leadership at DC&A; Uwe Gothert, CEO, Dale Carnegie, Germany; Greg Story, President, Dale Carnegie Training, Japan; and from India, our Executive Director, Sanjay Jha, and Managing Director, Pallavi Jha. Our selection process consists of 3 rounds. In round 1, an internal team reviews every application and passes for the basic criteria. In round 2, top companies are identified at a group meeting after each application has been thoroughly examined, and in the final round, each member of the global jury evaluates each shortlisted application. Based on the jury's collective ranking, the winner and the runner-up are determined. So what makes a winning application? We look for organizations that have successfully and clearly established their L&D strategy to their business goals, demonstrated a unique approach or initiative, displayed innovation and creativity, and shown measurable impact and business results as an outcome of their work.
Over the years, several organizations across the globe have received this prestigious recognition. To name a few, Coca-Cola, Boeing, Apple, China Steel, amongst others. Last year, Mahindra & Mahindra bagged the Global Leadership Award for showcasing their astounding efforts toward people development. Jindal Power and Indus Towers, strong forerunner, won the Runners-Up Award. For 2017 award, we received an incredible response with stellar nominations from many India's leading organizations. The selection process was tough and extremely competitive. We now present to you the 4 finalists in alphabetical order.
Ascent Telecom Infrastructure. Ascent team, please stand up. Ascent Telecom Infrastructure stood out for their brilliant integration of customer focus and learning. By effectively utilizing the Hewitt model of employee engagement, despite the challenge of changing manpower, they were able to do technical reskilling combined with a strong focus on values, which helped fulfill service level agreement conditions with customers, leading to amazing organization metrics. Congratulations. Our next finalist is Axis Bank. Would request the Axis Bank team to please stand up. Self-directed learning is a growing trend, but this organization took it one step further so that learning becomes a habit that was integrated into everyday activities rather than being restricted to discrete events. Most impressive was their shifting of responsibility from HR to the employee. Their learning on-demand model and the concept of learning binge was very impressive and innovative. The fact that business units are involved in the co-creation of interventions is commendable. Also, their twin-track approach, which included banking and digital analytics, coupled with an emphasis on transition from knowing to doing, proved to be extremely impactful. Congratulations.
Another finalist was Capgemini. May we have the Capgemini team please stand up? Their large-scale L&D initiative showcased not only innovation, but also strong leadership commitment. Transitioning the entire organization towards new technologies, there was considerable focus on talent attraction through gamification. This ultimately resulted in outstanding employee engagement scores. They utilized social learning along with creation of micro-learning assets to supplement an impressive scope of training that resulted in tangible business impacts. This intervention reached over 85,000 employees, ensuring that the entire India workforce was transformed. Congratulations, team Capgemini. And finally, the IL&FS Financial Services team. May the IFIN team please stand up as well. Congratulations. This organization adopted a comprehensive, interactive training initiative for multiple levels within the organization, a program that covers other cohort support to ones focused on high potentials as well as differentiated programs targeted specifically towards women. Over and above that, they created a brilliant 6-month simulation to help apply learning to real-life work scenario. Ultimately, these efforts were corroborated by impressive scores that demonstrated the effectiveness of their strong focus on pre- and post-program metrics. Congratulations, Team IFIN.
So who is the winner of this year's highly anticipated award? I would like to now call upon our chief guest of the evening to announce the winner and runners-up of the Global Leadership Award 2017. Please welcome Jonathan Vehar. I would also request Pallavi to join us on the dais.
Does this mean I won? Is that what, I wasn't paying attention. Is it?
And the second runner-up award goes to...
It's very exciting. Outstanding. Do you want me to read this out loud?
Yes.
Okay, out loud, sorry. So this is IL&FS Financial Services.
Big congratulations to the IFIN team. Would request the IFIN team to say a few words, please. Mic.
I may actually not need a mic. Actually loud enough. So first of all, thank you, Dave Carnegie, for recognizing us. So it's been, as we were just discussing with her, probably outside. This is going to be really loud. Okay, so as we were just discussing with her outside, I mean, this journey has been not only this 1 year, it's been over the last 3-4 years since we have trying to get up the ante on the learning and engagement piece at IL&FS Financial Services. And for us, though our workforce may not be a lot of millennials, we're still a little old school from that perspective. Investment banking is what we are for the IL&FS group. For us, there's one person who drives all of this, and it really runs from the MD and CEO's office, right? So that's Mr. Bava for us, who has tremendous passion for learning, right? And I think that's where it runs from. And then, of course, Sudakshana, who heads, and we are missing her here today, and Vikram, Akshata, so the entire HR team, Rakesh, Anju, and all of them, I'm unable to name all. We are not a lot, but about 8-9. But thanks once again, and hopefully we'll gun for another position next year. Thank you.
Congratulations, Team IFIN.
Well done. Congratulations.
So Purvi, who's won the first runner-up, and who's the winner?
Oh, that actual tension is building. Why
Yes.
don't you spill the beans?
Yes, should I?
Yeah, please.
And now, the first runner-up award is presented to...
Anyone seen my glasses? Capgemini!
Congratulations, Capgemini.
Congratulations, always do good stuff, sir.
Would request you, sir, to share a few words with us. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, so thank you so much for this honor. We are really privileged, and as many of you know, it is a disruption that's going on in the IT industry, and what we had to do is disrupt L&D, and we made our entire L&D become a digital age learning team, which was the biggest change that we incorporated. So everyone had to become comfortable on micro-learning, adaptive learning, social learning, and everything, which was a big change, and that really helped us touch all the 85,000 employees and transform them the new way. Thanks to the entire management, which gave us the support, and my entire team, which was behind this whole initiative. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Capgemini. Finally, the moment is here to announce the winner of the Dale Carnegie Global Leadership Award 2017. And the winner is...
Before I read this, I'd like to tell you my life story in excruciating detail. The winner is Axis Bank.
Congratulations, Axis Bank.
So, thanks, Meghdut, and I was just told to say a few words. I'm in HR, that's very difficult. So, well, as Aquil said, and we've done that, we are actually dissolving HR. By co-creating learning, at least one part of HR is getting obsolete, or what is the word you used? The experience has been great. Co-creation with the business, with the employees of the learning process has been an experience, of course. It's been, to use a very oft-used word nowadays, we've nudged people into getting into the habit of micro-learning, things like that. And within a couple of years, our L&OD team probably won't exist. So thank you very much once again. Thank you.
What is... What a stupendous achievement, Axis Bank. This is truly a recognition of your leading edge efforts in learning. Many congratulations to the entire team at Axis Bank. Thank you, Pallavi and Jonathan.
Congratulations to all winners. You have set high benchmarks tonight, worth emulating for all others. Folks, we hope you enjoyed the evening tonight, and we hope that we've inspired you to get to the next level. We look forward to hearing from you and your success stories next year when we open for 2018 awards. Given that this evening has been all about sharing experiences and innovations, these very innovative ideas have been captured in our upcoming book on best practices, which should reach all of us soon. It is your ideas that have inspired us to come up with it. With that, we conclude the award portion of this evening. We are so happy that you could make it, and it has been our pleasure to take you through this entire delightful evening. You have been a great audience. Please do join us for some delicious food and drinks. Have a very good evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.